Baby discovers a German Shepherd locked in an abandoned car. What he did next left everyone in tears. The story you're about to listen to will break your heart, then mend it in ways you never imagined. If you're watching from anywhere in the world, drop a comment below to let us know where. This incredible tale of innocence, courage, and unexpected heroism unfolded in the most ordinary of places. Thunder rumbled across the darkening sky as 4-year-old Ethan patted the last turret onto his sandcastle. The playground at the end of Maple Lane cul-de-sac was usually bustling with children, but today, with storm clouds gathering and the air heavy with the promise of rain, Ethan had the entire place to himself. Well, almost to himself. His mother, Rachel, sat on a nearby bench, scrolling through her phone, occasionally glancing up to make sure her son was still safely playing in the sandbox. 5 more minutes, sweetie, Rachel called out, eyeing the threatening clouds. Then we need to head home before it starts pouring. Ethan nodded absently, his attention captured by a bright red plastic shovel half buried in the sand. As he reached for it, a sudden gust of wind swept through the playground, sending his yellow bucket clattering across the pavement. Ethan jumped to his feet, chasing after it, his small sneakers slapping against the concrete as the bucket rolled toward the street where several cars were parked. The bucket came to rest against the tire of an old dusty blue sedan that Ethan had never noticed before. Something about the car seemed off. Its windows were slightly fogged, and a thin layer of pollen and dirt suggested it hadn't moved in days. As Ethan bent to retrieve his bucket, a sound froze him in place. A faint, desperate whimper coming from inside the vehicle. Ethan's eyes widened. He stood on his tiptoes, pressing his small hands against the window, trying to peer inside. The back windows were tinted, making it difficult to see clearly, but there was definitely something moving in there. Something alive. "Mommy!" Ethan called, his voice nearly drowned out by another roll of thunder. "Mommy, there's something in this car!" Rachel didn't look up immediately, assuming her son had found yet another fascinating bug or interesting rock. "That's nice, honey. Just leave it alone and come back to the sandbox." But Ethan couldn't move. Another whimper, slightly louder this time, reached his ears. He pressed his face against the glass, his breath creating a small fog circle. As his eyes adjusted to the darkness inside, he could make out a shape, something large and furry curled up on the back seat. "Mommy, there's a doggy in the car!" Ethan's voice trembled with urgency. "I think it's crying." This time, Rachel looked up from her phone, her brow furrowing with concern. A stray raindrop hit her cheek as she stood, tucking her phone into her pocket and walking quickly to where her son stood transfixed by the mysterious vehicle. "Ethan, step back from that car, please. It belongs to someone else," she said, reaching for his hand. But as she approached, she too heard it. A low, pained whine that sent a chill up her spine despite the humid air. Rachel leaned closer to the window, shielding her eyes with her hands to block the glare. At first, she saw nothing but shadows, but then a slight movement caught her eye, the unmistakable outline of a dog's head lifting weakly before dropping back down. "Oh my God!" she whispered, her heart racing. She tried the door handle, but it was locked. Pressing her face against the window like her son had done, she could now make out more details. A German Shepherd lying on its side, its chest heaving with labored breaths. The dog appeared to be in distress, and Rachel noticed with horror that its belly seemed unusually swollen. "Is the doggy okay?" Ethan asked, his small voice thick with concern. Rachel hesitated, unsure how to answer. "I don't know, sweetie, but I think it might be sick or hurt. We need to find help." Another whimper came from inside the car, this one weaker than before. Ethan suddenly pressed his small hands firmly against the glass and closed his eyes, as if listening intently. "It's a girl doggy," he said, with the absolute certainty that only children possess, and she's scared because of the babies in her tummy. Rachel stared at her son in surprise. "How do you know that?" Ethan shrugged, his eyes still fixed on the shadowy figure behind the glass. "She told me," he said simply, as another clap of thunder shook the sky. Rain began to fall in earnest now, fat droplets splattering against the pavement and sliding down the car windows. Rachel pulled out her phone and quickly dialed 911. But to her dismay, the call wouldn't connect. The storm was interfering with the signal. "We need to get help," Rachel said, looking around desperately for anyone who might assist them. The playground and surrounding streets were deserted, as everyone had sought shelter from the approaching storm. Ethan placed his small palm flat against the glass. "She says her name is Luna," he whispered, tears welling in his eyes. "She's been in there for 2 days. The bad man left her." Rachel felt a chill that had nothing to do with the rain now soaking through her light jacket. How could her son possibly know these things? She looked more carefully at the car. No food or water bowls were visible, and the windows were completely closed despite the warm spring weather. If a dog had truly been abandoned here in this condition... "Luna says she's thirsty," Ethan continued, his voice trembling, "and her babies are moving around too much. It hurts her." Rachel knelt beside her son, rain streaming down her face. "Ethan, honey, how do you know all this? Did you see something I didn't?" Ethan turned to his mother with eyes that suddenly seemed older than his 4 years. "I can hear her in my head, Mommy. She's talking to me." He turned back to the window, placing his forehead against the glass. "She says please hurry." A flash of lightning illuminated the car's interior for a split second, and Rachel caught a clear glimpse of the German Shepherd, its beautiful tan and black coat dull with stress, its amber eyes looking directly at them with an intelligence that sent another shiver through her. In that brief moment of clarity, Rachel could see that the dog's belly was indeed swollen, and there was no doubt in her mind that Ethan was right. This was a pregnant dog, abandoned and in distress. "We need to call Daddy," Rachel said, trying once more with her phone. This time, the call connected, and she quickly explained the situation to her husband, Michael. "I'll be there in 5 minutes," he promised. "Don't try to break into the car. We don't know who it belongs to. I'll bring some tools just in case." As they waited for Michael to arrive, Ethan refused to leave Luna's side. He kept one hand pressed against the window, occasionally whispering words of comfort that Rachel couldn't quite hear. The rain fell harder now, drumming against the car roof and turning the playground into a miniature lake of puddles. "She's scared of the thunder," Ethan explained, as another rumble shook the sky. "Her last owner used to lock her outside during storms." Rachel didn't question how her son knew this information anymore. There was something happening here that defied logical explanation. A connection between her child and this suffering animal that transcended ordinary understanding. Finally, headlights cut through the rain as Michael's truck pulled up beside them. He jumped out, toolbox in hand, and rushed over to where Rachel and Ethan stood huddled against the car. "Jesus," Michael muttered as he peered through the window. "You weren't kidding. That dog looks like it's about to have puppies any minute." "Her name is Luna," Ethan insisted, "and she has 6 babies inside her." Michael exchanged a look with Rachel, who simply shrugged, unable to explain their son's certainty. "Okay, buddy. Let's see if we can help Luna then." Michael inspected the car, an older model sedan with faded paint and a thin layer of grime, suggesting it had been parked there for some time. "I'm going to try to get this door open," he said. "If this dog has been abandoned here, we can't just leave her." As Michael worked on the lock with a slim tool from his box, Ethan kept up a steady stream of whispered reassurances to Luna. "It's okay, girl. My daddy's going to get you out. Don't be scared." Rachel wrapped her arms around her son, as much to comfort herself as him. The rain had soaked them both, but Ethan didn't seem to notice or care. His entire focus was on the distressed animal just inches away through the glass. "The man who left her here was angry," Ethan suddenly said, his voice so soft Rachel almost didn't hear him over the rain. "He wanted money for her babies, but someone said they were sick. Luna isn't sick. She's just sad." Rachel felt goosebumps rise on her arms that had nothing to do with the cool rain. "Ethan, honey, how do you know all this?" Ethan turned those unnaturally wise eyes to his mother again. "Luna is showing me pictures in my head, Mommy, like a movie." Before Rachel could respond, there was a click as Michael finally managed to trigger the lock. "Got it!" he exclaimed, pulling the door handle. The door swung open with a creak, releasing a wave of hot, stale air from inside the vehicle. Luna raised her head weakly, her amber eyes fixing first on Michael, then moving to Rachel, and finally settling on Ethan. A soft whine escaped her throat as she tried to move but seemed too weak to stand. "Easy, girl," Michael said softly, assessing the situation. "We're here to help." Ethan wriggled free from his mother's grasp, and before either parent could stop him, climbed into the back seat beside the German Shepherd. Rachel gasped, reaching for her son. terrified that the distressed animal might lash out. But Luna did not growl or snap. Instead, she laid her head gently in Ethan's lap, her eyes never leaving his face. Ethan stroked her head with a tenderness that brought tears to Rachel's eyes. "It's okay now, Luna," he whispered. "You're not alone anymore. We'll take care of your babies." Michael and Rachel watched in astonishment as their son comforted the frightened animal with a wisdom far beyond his years. In that moment, drenched by the rain and illuminated by flashes of lightning, they witnessed something miraculous. A connection between a child and an animal that defied explanation. A bond formed in an instant that seemed to have existed forever. Luna's breathing seemed to calm under Ethan's touch, though her swollen belly occasionally rippled with what could only be the movement of puppies inside. She was clearly in the late stages of pregnancy and needed immediate veterinary care. "We need to get her to a vet," Michael said, already pulling out his phone to search for emergency animal clinics in the area. "Luna says there's not enough time," Ethan said, his small hand resting protectively on the dog's head. "Her babies are coming soon." As if to confirm his words, Luna let out a low moan, her body tensing visibly. Rachel and Michael exchanged alarmed glances, the reality of their situation sinking in. They were in a rainstorm, with a pregnant dog they'd just rescued from an abandoned car, and their 4-year-old son somehow communicating with the animal in ways they couldn't understand. "The closest emergency vet is 20 minutes away," Michael said, showing Rachel his phone screen. Rachel bit her lip, looking at Luna's labored breathing. "I don't think we have 20 minutes. Another flash of lightning illuminated the scene, a small boy cradling the head of a suffering dog, whispering secrets into her ear that no one else could hear, as the storm raged around them and new life prepared to enter the world in the most unlikely of circumstances. "She says she held on because she knew I was coming," Ethan said, looking up at his parents with eyes that shimmered with tears and something else, a wisdom, an understanding that seemed to connect him to something greater than himself. "She waited for me." And in that moment, as the rain poured down and thunder shook the sky, Rachel and Michael knew that they had stumbled upon something extraordinary, a story that was only just beginning. Michael glanced nervously at the car's license plate, then at the surrounding houses. "We need to be careful here. We don't know who this car belongs to or why they left Luna in this condition." "Does it matter?" Rachel asked, her voice rising with indignation. "Look at her. She's been abandoned, she's pregnant, and she's suffering. We can't just leave her here." Michael ran a hand through his rain-soaked hair. "I'm not saying we should leave her, but breaking into someone's car is technically illegal, even with the best intentions. The bad man isn't coming back," Ethan said with that same eerie certainty. "Luna says he told her she was worthless now. He didn't want her anymore because her babies might not sell for enough money." Rachel and Michael exchanged troubled glances over their son's head. The storm intensified around them, rain now coming down in sheets. They couldn't stay here debating moral and legal questions while Luna suffered. "I'll take responsibility," Michael finally said, decision made. "Let's get her into our car and figure out next steps from there." He leaned into the back seat, assessing how to move the pregnant dog. Luna was a full-size German Shepherd, easily 70 pounds, and in her weakened state, they needed to be extremely careful not to cause her additional stress. "Luna says, be careful of her left side," Ethan instructed, still stroking the dog's head. "It hurts her there." Michael nodded, taking his son's advice without question. He slid his arms gently under Luna's body, avoiding her left flank as Ethan had warned. The dog whimpered softly, but didn't resist as Michael began to lift her. "She's so light," Michael murmured, concern etching his features. "She's definitely been without food for days." With Rachel's help, they carefully maneuvered Luna out of the abandoned car and toward their SUV, parked at the playground entrance. Ethan walked alongside them, one small hand resting on Luna's head, whispering reassurances that only he and the dog seemed to understand. As they approached their vehicle, a car's headlights swept across the parking lot. Michael froze. Luna cradled in his arms, suddenly aware of how this might appear to an outside observer, a family removing a dog from someone else's car in the middle of a rainstorm. The approaching vehicle slowed, then pulled up beside them. The window rolled down to reveal Mrs. Patel, their elderly neighbor from 3 doors down. "Rachel? Michael? Is everything all right?" she called over the sound of the rain. Rachel stepped forward, shielding her eyes from the rain. Mrs. Patel, thank goodness. We found this dog abandoned in that car over there. She's pregnant and in distress. Mrs. Patel's eyes widened as she took in the scene. Michael holding the weakened German shepherd. Ethan standing protectively at his father's side, all of them drenched to the bone. That blue sedan has been there for 3 days now, Mrs. Patel confirmed, her expression darkening. I thought it was strange. I even called the non-emergency police line yesterday, but they said they couldn't do anything unless it was blocking traffic. Did you see who left it there? Michael asked, shifting Luna's weight in his arms. The dog's breathing had become more labored, her eyes half closed with exhaustion. Mrs. Patel's face hardened. A man I've never seen before, tall, thin, with a scar across his right cheek. He parked the car, walked away, and never came back. I didn't know there was a dog inside, or I would have called animal control immediately. She needs help now, Ethan insisted, tugging at his father's jacket. Her babies are getting restless. Mrs. Patel looked at the little boy with surprise, then nodded firmly. Take her to your house. My nephew is a veterinary student. I'll call him right away and send him over. Thank you, Rachel said fervently. We live at 237 Maple Lane. I know where you live, dear, Mrs. Patel smiled briefly. Now, hurry along. That poor creature needs warmth and water immediately. They continued to their SUV, Michael carefully placing Luna on the back seat, while Ethan climbed in beside her, refusing to leave her side. Rachel jumped into the driver's seat, hands shaking slightly as she started the engine. The short drive home felt endless. Every bump in the road elicited a soft whine from Luna, and Ethan continued his whispered conversation with her, occasionally relaying information to his parents. She says her water broke already, he announced as they turned onto their street. The puppies are coming really soon. Rachel's knuckles turned white on the steering wheel. Did she say how many? 6, Ethan replied without hesitation. 3 boys and 3 girls, but one of the boys is really small. Luna is worried about him. Rachel caught Michael's eye in the rearview mirror. Neither of them questioned anymore how their son knew these details. There was something happening here beyond their understanding, a connection between child and animal that transcended normal explanation. They pulled into their driveway, the garage door opening automatically as they approached. Once inside, Michael carefully lifted Luna from the back seat, while Rachel ran ahead to prepare a space in their family room. Get all the towels from the hall closet, she called to Michael, and the old comforter from the guest room. We need to make her comfortable. Within minutes, they had created a makeshift bed on the floor, layered with towels and blankets. Michael gently laid Luna down, and she immediately curled into a tight ball, her body trembling with contractions. Water, Ethan said urgently. She needs water. Rachel quickly filled a bowl and brought it to Luna, who lapped weakly at the liquid. Ethan sat cross-legged beside her, one hand resting on her heaving side. The babies are moving down, he reported. The first one is coming soon. Michael knelt beside his son, examining Luna more carefully now that they were in better light. Her coat was matted and dull, her body alarmingly thin despite the swollen belly. There were marks on her neck where a too-tight collar had rubbed the fur away, and a half-healed cut above her right eye suggested recent mistreatment. Who could do this to an animal? He muttered, anger rising in his chest. The bad man with the scar, Ethan answered matter-of-factly. He breeds dogs for money, but when the vet told him Luna's puppies might have health problems because of her age, he just left her. Rachel, who had been gathering additional supplies, paused at her son's words. Michael, she said quietly, that sounds like Jason Blackwood. Remember those stories in the news last year about the illegal breeding operation they shut down? Michael frowned, the name stirring a vague memory. Wasn't he charged with animal cruelty? I thought he went to jail. He did, but I heard he was out already. Sarah at the grocery store was just talking about it last week. Her brother works at the county courthouse. Apparently, he got out on some technicality. Their conversation was interrupted by a sharp whine from Luna. Her body tensed visibly, and Ethan's eyes widened. The first puppy is coming now, he announced. Luna says she needs help. As if the storm outside had synchronized with the drama unfolding in their family room, a particularly violent thunderclap shook the house. The lights flickered once, twice, and then went out, plunging them into darkness. Perfect timing, Michael muttered, fumbling for his phone to activate the flashlight. Rachel, Where are the emergency candles? Kitchen drawer, she replied, already moving in that direction. And there's a camping lantern in the garage. Within moments, they had illuminated the space with the warm glow of candles and the brighter beam of the lantern. In this half-light, Luna's suffering seemed even more pronounced, her amber eyes reflecting the flickering flames as she panted through another contraction. The doorbell rang, startling them all. Michael went to answer it, returning moments later with a young man carrying a large backpack. "This is Dev, Mrs. Patel's nephew," he introduced. "He's in his final year of veterinary school." Dev nodded in greeting, his eyes immediately finding Luna on her makeshift bed. Without a word, he knelt beside her, hands moving with professional confidence to assess her condition. "How long has she been in active labor?" he asked, opening his backpack and removing several items. "We're not sure," Rachel admitted. "We just found her about 30 minutes ago, locked in an abandoned car at the playground. My son says her water has already broken." Dev glanced at Ethan, who remained by Luna's head, then back at Rachel with a raised eyebrow. "Your son said that?" "It's complicated," Michael interjected. "Let's just say Ethan seems to have a special connection with Luna." Dev looked skeptical but didn't press the issue. "She's definitely in active labor," he confirmed, after examining Luna more thoroughly. "And based on her condition, I'd say she's been neglected for some time. She's severely dehydrated and malnourished." Luna tensed again, a low moan escaping her throat. Dev positioned himself at her rear end, gloved hands ready. "I can see the first puppy crowning," he announced. "This is happening now, ready or not." What followed was a tense hour of birthing, illuminated only by candlelight and the camping lantern as the storm continued to rage outside. Luna delivered her first puppy, a small, dark-furred male, with relative ease. Dev quickly cleared its airway, and the tiny creature let out its first squeaking cry. "One down," Dev said, gently placing the puppy near Luna's head. She immediately began licking at clean maternal instincts overriding her exhaustion. The second and third puppies, both females, arrived in quick succession. Each time, Dev worked efficiently to ensure their airways were clear, while Ethan whispered encouragement to Luna, his small face intense with concentration. "She says the next one is harder," Ethan warned, as Luna began to strain again. "It's the little boy, and he's turned around wrong." Dev looked startled at the child's assessment, but focused on the task at hand. Sure enough, the fourth puppy was presenting breach, its tiny back legs emerging first. With gentle manipulation, Dev helped guide the puppy out, but unlike its siblings, this one didn't immediately cry. "Come on, little guy," Dev murmured, rubbing the puppy vigorously with a towel. Luna whined anxiously, trying to see what was happening. "His name is Spark," Ethan said suddenly. "Luna already named him because she saw a spark of light when he was made." Dev didn't respond, all his attention on the motionless puppy. After what seemed like an eternity, the tiny creature twitched, then let out a feeble squeak. A collective sigh of relief filled the room as Dev placed the weakest puppy close to Luna's warmth. "3 more to go," he said, wiping sweat from his brow, despite the power outage leaving the house increasingly cool. The 5th puppy, another female, arrived without complications, but by now Luna was visibly weakening. Her contractions seemed less effective, her breathing more labored. "She's exhausted," Dev said with concern, "and she still has 2 more puppies to deliver." "She says she can't push anymore," Ethan translated, tears filling his eyes. "She's too tired." Dev reached into his bag and pulled out a syringe. "This is dextrose sugar water," he explained to Michael and Rachel. "It might give her a quick energy boost, but if she can't deliver the last 2 puppies soon, we might be looking at an emergency situation." As Dev administered the injection, Ethan leaned close to Luna's ear, whispering intently. The adults couldn't hear what he was saying, but the effect on Luna was immediate and startling. Her eyes, which had been drifting closed with exhaustion, snapped open. She lifted her head, looking directly at Ethan, and something unspoken passed between them. With renewed determination, Luna pushed again. The 6th puppy, a male with distinctive markings already visible through its wet fur, emerged quickly, crying lustily as soon as its nose cleared the birth canal. "Just 1 more," Rachel encouraged, amazed at Luna's resilience. Outside, the storm had reached its peak. Rain lashed against the windows, wind howled through the trees, and thunder seemed to shake the very foundation of the house. Inside, in the warm glow of candlelight, new life continued to enter the world against all odds. Luna gathered her strength for one final effort. With Ethan's hand resting gently on her head, she delivered her last puppy, the smallest female of the litter. Dev cleaned the tiny creature and placed it with its siblings, all now nursing hungrily despite their traumatic entry into the world. 7 puppies, Dev said, counting again to be sure. That's one more than expected. Surprise, Ethan grinned, stroking Luna's ear. Luna didn't know about the last one. She was hiding behind her brothers and sisters. Dev shook his head in amazement, looking from Ethan to the exhausted mother dog and her 7 squirming puppies. I don't know how you knew all that, kid, but you were right about everything. After ensuring that Luna's birthing process was complete and that she and all puppies were stable, Dev packed up his supplies. She'll need proper veterinary care as soon as possible, he advised, and those puppies should be checked for any congenital issues given the mother's condition. But for tonight, they just need warmth, quiet, and for Luna to rest and nurse them. We can't thank you enough, Rachel said, walking Dev to the door. The rain had finally begun to subside, though the power remained out. No thanks needed, Dev replied with a smile. This is why I wanted to become a vet in the first place. But you should know, if that car belongs to who you think it does, you might have trouble ahead. Blackwood isn't known for letting things go, especially valuable breeding stock. Rachel's expression hardened. Let him try. We have documentation of animal abandonment and neglect. Not to mention, those marks on Luna's body tell a clear story of abuse. After Dev left, Rachel returned to the family room to find a scene of perfect tranquility amidst the chaos of the night. Michael sat on the floor beside Luna's makeshift bed, watching with wonder as the puppies nursed. Ethan had curled up against Luna's back, his small body rising and falling in the steady rhythm of sleep. Luna's eyes were half closed, exhaustion finally claiming her, but one ear remained alert, turning toward any sound that might signal danger to her newborns. They're all going to be okay, Michael said quietly as Rachel joined him on the floor. It's a miracle, really. Rachel nodded, reaching out to touch one of the puppies, the tiny runt that had given them such a scare. I still can't believe everything that happened tonight. And Ethan, how did he know all those things? How could he possibly have known? Michael shook his head. I don't have an explanation for it, but I saw it with my own eyes. Our son has some kind of connection with this dog that goes beyond anything I can understand. A soft scratching sound at the front door caught their attention. Michael frowned, standing up slowly. Probably just branches from the storm, he said, but his voice held a note of uncertainty. He walked to the front door, peering through the peephole. The porch light was out due to the power failure, but a flash of lightning illuminated a figure standing there, tall and thin, with a distinctive scar across his right cheek. Michael's blood ran cold. He stepped back from the door, motioning for Rachel to stay quiet. He pointed upward, mouthing the words, "He's here!" Rachel's eyes widened with fear and anger. She moved silently to where Ethan and Luna lay sleeping, positioning herself protectively in front of them. The scratching came again, more insistent this time, followed by the rattling of the doorknob. Michael grabbed his phone, quickly dialing 911. But in the aftermath of the storm, the call wouldn't connect. They were on their own. Have you ever felt the heart-stopping fear of a predator at your doorstep in the middle of the night? What would you do to protect an innocent mother and her newborns from the monster who abused them? Get away from the door, Michael whispered urgently to Rachel. Take Ethan and Luna to the basement. Use the back stairs. Rachel nodded, her face pale in the flickering candlelight. She gently shook Ethan awake, pressing a finger to her lips to signal silence. The little boy's eyes fluttered open, immediately alert and understanding in a way that seemed impossible for a child of his age. The bad man is here, he whispered. Not a question but a statement. Rachel didn't waste time wondering how he knew. We need to move Luna and the puppies downstairs, she whispered back. Can you help? Ethan nodded solemnly. He leaned close to Luna's ear, whispering something that made the exhausted dog struggle to her feet despite her weakened state. The 7 newborn puppies squeaked in protest as their food source shifted. Michael grabbed the large laundry basket they had prepared earlier, lining it with towels. With utmost care, Rachel transferred each tiny puppy into the makeshift carrier, while Ethan kept Luna calm, somehow communicating that her babies weren't being taken from her. The scratching at the front door had become more insistent, now accompanied by a low voice. "I know you're in there. I saw the candles. Open up. I just want what's mine." Michael's jaw tightened as he grabbed a baseball bat from the hall closet. "Go," he mouthed to Rachel. "I'll hold him off if he gets in." Rachel gathered the basket of puppies while Ethan coaxed Luna toward the kitchen and the back staircase that led to their finished basement. The German Shepherd moved slowly, her body still recovering from the birth, but her eyes were alert with protective instinct. As they disappeared down the stairs, Michael positioned himself in the hallway, bat raised, listening to the increasingly aggressive attempts to breach their front door. The lock rattled, then stopped. For a moment, there was silence, and Michael allowed himself to hope that the intruder had given up. Then came the sound of breaking glass from the side of the house. The small window in their half-bathroom was being smashed. Michael moved swiftly through the darkened house, guided only by memory and the occasional flash of lightning through the windows. He reached the bathroom just as a thin arm snaked through the broken window, feeling for the lock. Without hesitation, Michael slammed the door shut, crushing the intruder's arm against the window frame. A howl of pain came from outside, followed by a stream of curses as the arm was hastily withdrawn. "You're making a big mistake," the voice snarled from outside. "That dog is worth thousands to me. The puppies too. Walk away now, and we can make a deal." "The police are on their way," Michael lied, his voice steady despite his pounding heart. "Breaking and entering, animal cruelty, threatening a family. You're looking at serious jail time, Blackwood." There was a pause, then a chilling laugh. "You know who I am? Good. Then you know I don't give up easily. And the cops? Nice try. The storm knocked out cell service for 3 blocks. Nobody's calling anyone tonight." Michael's blood ran cold at the realization that Blackwood knew about the service outage. This wasn't an impulsive visit. The man had planned his approach carefully, waiting for the perfect opportunity when they would be isolated and vulnerable. Downstairs, Rachel had created a sheltered corner in their basement rec room, using the couch and some chairs to form a protected den. Luna had settled on a pile of blankets, her puppies returned to her side, while Ethan sat cross-legged beside them, one hand resting protectively on Luna's head. "Is the bad man going to take Luna away?" Ethan asked, his voice small but remarkably steady. Rachel wrapped an arm around her son's shoulders. "No, sweetie, your dad and I won't let that happen." "Luna says he hurt her other babies before," Ethan continued, his eyes never leaving the German Shepherd. "He took them away too soon and sold them to people who didn't know how to take care of them." Rachel felt sick at the thought. She'd heard about unscrupulous breeders who separated puppies from their mothers prematurely to maximize profits, causing lasting physical and psychological damage to both mother and offspring. "That won't happen this time," she promised, as much to Luna as to her son. "These puppies will stay with their mother until they're ready, and then we'll make sure they go to loving homes." Luna's amber eyes met Rachel's, and for a moment she felt the same connection that Ethan seemed to share with the dog, a profound understanding that transcended words. Luna knew they were trying to protect her, and she trusted them, despite all the reasons her past had given her to fear humans. Upstairs, they heard a crash, followed by Michael's shout. Rachel tensed, torn between staying with Ethan and Luna and going to help her husband. "Stay here," she told Ethan firmly. "Lock the door behind me. Don't open it unless you hear my voice or Dad's." Ethan nodded solemnly, his small face set with determination beyond his years. As Rachel headed for the stairs, she saw him whispering to Luna, whose ears perked up attentively. Rachel grabbed a heavy flashlight from the emergency kit as she raced up the basement stairs. The house had fallen silent, which frightened her more than the sounds of struggle had. She moved cautiously through the kitchen, flashlight raised both as a light source and a potential weapon. "Michael?" she called softly. No answer. Heart pounding, she edged into the hallway. A gust of cold air hit her face. Somewhere, a door or window was now open to the night. Lightning flashed, illuminating the hallway for a split second, and Rachel saw a scene that stopped her heart. Michael slumped against the wall, a thin trickle of blood running from his temple, and standing over him, a tall figure with a distinctive scarred face. "There you are," Jason Blackwood said, his voice unnervingly calm. "Now, why don't you tell me where my property is, and we can end this unpleasantness?" Rachel raised the flashlight, its beam catching Blackwood's face. gaunt, with hollow cheeks and eyes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Get out of my house," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "My husband was right. The police are on their way." Blackwood smiled, a humorless twist of lips that never reached his eyes. "We both know that's not true. The storm has this whole neighborhood cut off until morning at least." He took a step toward her. "I just want the dog and her pups. They represent a significant investment. You can even keep one puppy as a finder's fee. I'm a reasonable man." "Reasonable men don't abandon pregnant dogs in locked cars," Rachel spat, backing away slightly, trying to keep distance between them, while also drawing him away from the basement door. "Reasonable men don't break into homes and assault people." Blackwood shrugged, apparently unconcerned with her moral judgment. "Business is business. That bitch was supposed to produce show-quality puppies worth $2,000 each. When my vet said there might be defects due to some medication she was given, she became a liability instead of an asset. I cut my losses." "You left her to die," Rachel said, disgust evident in her voice. "I left her where someone would find her," Blackwood corrected, as if this somehow justified his actions. "And look, someone did. Now, where are they? Basement? Upstairs? I don't have all night." Rachel tightened her grip on the flashlight. "You're not touching them. Luna and her puppies are under our protection now." "Luna?" Blackwood laughed. "You named her? She's not a pet, lady. She's livestock, breeding stock. Now, last chance before I stop being polite. Where are they?" A low growl from behind Rachel made both her and Blackwood freeze. Luna stood at the top of the basement stairs, hackles raised, teeth bared despite her weakened condition. Behind her, shockingly, stood Ethan, his small face a mask of determination and fury no 4-year-old should be capable of. "Get away from my mommy!" the child demanded, his voice ringing with authority that seemed to come from somewhere beyond himself. Blackwood's eyes widened, first with surprise at the sudden appearance of the dog he'd abandoned, then with calculation as he assessed her value now that she'd successfully whelped. "Well, well," he murmured. "Looks like my investment paid off after all. 7 healthy puppies, is it? That's quite a payday." Luna's growl deepened, the sound vibrating through the hallway despite her exhausted state. She took a protective stance in front of Ethan, clearly willing to defend the child with whatever strength she had left. "You should know," Rachel said carefully, seeing her husband begin to stir behind Blackwood, "that we've already documented everything. The condition we found Luna in, the marks of abuse on her body, the abandonment. Mrs. Patel from down the street witnessed you leaving the car. Dev Patel has medical records of Luna's condition when we found her. You'll never prove these dogs are yours." Blackwood's face darkened. "I don't need to prove anything. I'm taking what's mine, and by tomorrow, they'll be in a different state with new paperwork." He took a step toward Luna and Ethan. The German Shepherd tensed, preparing to attack despite her weakened state. Rachel lunged forward, swinging the flashlight, but Blackwood was quicker, catching her wrist in a painful grip. What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. As Blackwood twisted Rachel's arm, forcing her to drop the flashlight, Michael surged up from the floor, tackling the intruder from behind. Luna sprang forward, teeth snapping inches from Blackwood's face, and Ethan, little Ethan, let out a piercing whistle that cut through the chaos like a knife. The unexpected sound startled everyone, freezing the struggle momentarily. In that instant of confusion, lights suddenly blazed through the windows, illuminating the scene in harsh white beams. An amplified voice boomed from outside. "This is the police! We have the house surrounded! Come out with your hands up!" Blackwood's face contorted with rage and disbelief. "Impossible!" he hissed. "The phones are out! How did you—" "My watch," Ethan said simply, holding up his small wrist where a colorful children's smartwatch glowed in the darkness. "It has cell service even when phones don't. Luna told me to press the emergency button." For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Blackwood's face. He looked from the child to the dog, then at the lights now flooding through every window of the house. With a snarl of frustration, he shoved Michael aside and bolted for the back door. He never made it. As he rounded the corner into the kitchen, a massive shape lunged from the shadows. Mrs. Patel's son-in-law, Raj, a former linebacker who now worked as a security guard at the local mall. Blackwood went down hard, the breath knocked from his lungs as Raj pinned him to the floor with practiced ease. "Got him!" Raj called out. "All clear?" Within moments, the house was filled with police officers and paramedics. Michael's head wound was examined and bandaged, while an officer took statements from both him and Rachel. Outside, flashing lights painted the rain-washed street in alternating blue and red. "How did you know to come?" Rachel asked the female officer who was documenting Luna's condition with photographs. "Anonymous tip," the officer replied. "Someone called in a suspected break-in at this address, mentioned that the suspect was a recently paroled animal abuser named Jason Blackwood. Gave us his description, background, everything we needed. Dispatcher tried to get more details, but the caller hung up." Rachel looked questioningly at Michael, who shook his head. It hadn't been him. Mrs. Patel and her family had only arrived after the police, responding to Ethan's emergency call. Speaking of Ethan, Rachel glanced around, finally spotting her son sitting on the couch, Luna's head in his lap, whispering to her as he had done since their first meeting. The German Shepherd's eyes were fixed on the child's face, with an intensity that still sent shivers down Rachel's spine, not from fear, but from the sense that she was witnessing something beyond normal understanding. A veterinarian had arrived with the paramedics and was now examining Luna and her puppies, all of whom had been returned to the laundry basket during the commotion. "They're remarkably healthy, considering the circumstances," the vet reported, gently returning the smallest puppy to its mother. "Luna is dehydrated and malnourished, but with proper care, she and all the puppies should make a full recovery." "Even the little one, Spark?" Ethan asked anxiously. The vet looked surprised at the child's knowledge of the runt puppy, but nodded reassuringly. "Even the smallest one. He's a fighter." "I told you," Ethan said to Luna, stroking her ear. "I told you they'd all be okay." As the police led a handcuffed Blackwood out to a patrol car, the breeder fixed his cold gaze on the family one last time. "This isn't over," he spat. "I have friends, connections. That dog is valuable breeding stock." "That dog," interrupted the officer escorting him, "is evidence in an animal cruelty case. And based on your record, Mr. Blackwood, you're looking at significant jail time. I wouldn't be making threats if I were you." When the last police car had pulled away and the paramedics had cleared Michael to stay home rather than go to the hospital, a strange quiet fell over the house. The power was still out, but the emergency vehicles had brought temporary light and activity. Now, in the gentle glow of candles and flashlights, the family gathered in the living room. Luna and her puppies once again settled on their makeshift bed. "I still don't understand," Rachel said softly, looking at her son with wonder. "How did you know, Ethan? How did you know Luna was talking to you?" Ethan shrugged, the gesture somehow both childlike and ancient. "I just heard her. In my head. Like when you think words but don't say them out loud. She showed me pictures too." "And the puppies?" Michael asked gently. "How did you know there were 7 when even Luna thought there were 6? "I counted their hearts," Ethan said simply, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "I could hear them all beating like tiny drums. One was hiding behind the others, but I could still hear her." Rachel and Michael exchanged glances, silently agreeing not to press further. Whatever gift their son possessed, this ability to connect with Luna on a level they couldn't comprehend, it had saved lives tonight. That was enough. Mrs. Patel appeared at the front door, bearing thermoses of hot tea and containers of homemade soup. "The whole neighborhood is talking about what happened," she reported, setting the food on the coffee table. "Everyone agrees you're heroes for saving that poor dog." "Ethan is the real hero," Michael said, ruffling his son's hair. "Without him, we would never have known Luna was in that car." Mrs. Patel smiled at the little boy, then turned more serious as she addressed the parents. "You should know. There are rumors that Blackwood is connected to some dangerous people. Dogfighting rings, illegal breeding operations. The officer I spoke with mentioned he might have partners who wouldn't be happy about his arrest." Rachel felt a chill despite the warm tea in her hands. "You think we might still be in danger?" Mrs. Patel hesitated. "I think precautions would be wise. Raj has offered to stay on your couch tonight, just in case. And tomorrow, perhaps you should consider going somewhere else for a few days, until things settle down." After Mrs. Patel left, with Raj installed on their couch as promised, Rachel and Michael retreated to the kitchen to discuss their options. "My sister's lake house is empty right now," Rachel suggested. "It's only 2 hours away, but it's private, gated community. We could take Luna and the puppies there until Blackwood's court date." Michael nodded, his face still showing the strain of the night's events. That might be best. If he really does have connections. Their conversation was interrupted by Ethan's appearance in the doorway, his face solemn in the candlelight. Luna says we need to be careful, he announced. The bad man has a friend with a star on his neck. Luna saw him once. He hurt dogs too. Rachel knelt to her son's level. A star? Like a tattoo? Ethan nodded. A blue star, right here. He pointed to the side of his neck. Luna says he's even scarier than the man with the scar. Michael and Rachel exchanged alarmed glances. A blue star tattoo on the neck was a known identifier of members of the East Side Syndicate, a criminal organization with tentacles in everything from drugs to illegal gambling, and, apparently, dogfighting. Lake House it is, Michael said firmly. First thing in the morning. That night, they all slept in the living room, Michael and Rachel on air mattresses, Ethan curled up beside Luna and her puppies, his small hand resting protectively on her head, even in sleep. Outside, the storm had finally passed, leaving behind a sky washed clean and scattered with stars. In the peaceful aftermath, it was almost possible to believe that the danger had passed with the storm, that Blackwood's arrest had ended the threat to Luna and her puppies. But Rachel couldn't shake the feeling that what they had experienced tonight was just the beginning of a longer, more dangerous journey. As she drifted toward sleep, Rachel's last conscious thought was of the mysterious anonymous tip that had brought the police to their door exactly when they needed help most. Who had made that call? How had they known what was happening? These questions followed her into uneasy dreams, where dogs spoke with human voices and children understood secrets that adults could never grasp. Have you ever experienced a moment when you felt connected to an animal in an unexplainable way? What do you think enables some people, especially children, to communicate with animals on a deeper level? Dawn broke over the neighborhood, painting the rain-washed streets in gentle hues of pink and gold. The power had been restored sometime during the night, and with it came a deceptive sense of normalcy, as if the events of the previous night had been nothing more than a shared nightmare. Rachel moved quietly through the kitchen, preparing a simple breakfast, while Michael loaded their SUV with supplies for the journey to the lake house. Luna and her puppies had been carefully placed in a large plastic storage container lined with blankets, a makeshift transport solution that would keep the newborns secure during the drive. Ethan sat cross-legged beside Luna, feeding her small pieces of chicken by hand. The German Shepherd's amber eyes never left the child's face, her trust in him absolute despite all the reasons her past had given her to fear humans. She says thank you, Ethan reported, looking up as Rachel placed a glass of orange juice beside him, for the chicken and for saving her babies. Rachel smiled, no longer questioning how her son could know Luna's thoughts. After everything they'd witnessed, it seemed pointless to doubt the connection between the boy and the dog. Tell her she's very welcome, she said, touching Luna's head gently, and that we'll keep her safe from now on. I already told her that, Ethan said matter-of-factly. That's why she let you touch her puppies. She knows you're good people. Michael appeared in the doorway, car keys in hand. Everything's packed. We should get going before the neighborhood wakes up. The fewer people who see us leave with Luna, the better. Rachel nodded, gathering the last of the food supplies. Is Raj still here? He left about 20 minutes ago. Said he'd drive by the lake house later today to check on us. Michael knelt beside Ethan and Luna. Time to go, buddy. Can you help Luna understand that we're taking her somewhere safe? Ethan nodded solemnly, placing both hands on Luna's head and closing his eyes in concentration. The German Shepherd's ears twitched, and she made a soft sound in her throat. Not quite a whine, not quite a growl, but something in between. She understands, Ethan confirmed, but she says we need to be careful. The man with the star might be watching. Michael and Rachel exchanged worried glances. The blue star tattoo Ethan had described marked its wearer as a member of the East Side Syndicate, a notorious criminal organization they knew only from news reports and police warnings. If Blackwood truly had connections there, the danger to their family was far greater than they had initially feared. We'll be careful, Michael promised, helping Ethan to his feet. The car is in the garage, and we'll leave with the door closed. No one will see us. As they prepared for the final transfer of Luna and her puppies to the car, a soft knock at the front door froze them all in place. Michael motioned for Rachel and Ethan to stay in the kitchen, while he approached the door cautiously, peering through the peephole. He relaxed visibly, opening the door to reveal Officer Jensen, the female police officer who had responded to the call the previous night. "Sorry to disturb you so early," she said, stepping inside when Michael invited her in. "I wanted to check how you're all doing and give you an update on Blackwood." "We're okay," Michael assured her. "A bit shaken up, but no lasting harm done. What about Blackwood?" Officer Jensen's expression was grim. "That's what I wanted to warn you about. He made bail this morning." "Bail?" Rachel gasped, having entered the hallway in time to hear this news. "How is that possible? He broke into our home, assaulted my husband, threatened all of us." "I know, and believe me, we argued against it," Jensen said, frustration evident in her voice. "But he has connections, expensive lawyers. The judge set bail at $50,000 and someone paid it immediately, cash." Michael ran a hand through his hair, the implications sinking in. "So he's out there, free." "With restrictions," Jensen clarified. "He's wearing an ankle monitor and is forbidden from coming within 500 feet of your property or contacting you in any way. We'll be increasing patrols in your neighborhood, and there's a squad car stationed at the end of your street right now." "But you can't watch us 24/7, Rachel pointed out, fear creeping back into her voice. Jensen's silence was answer enough. After a moment, she asked, "Have you considered going somewhere else for a few days, just until the court date?" "We're actually on our way to my sister's lake house," Rachel admitted. "We were just about to leave when you knocked." Jensen nodded approvingly. "That's smart. Don't tell anyone where you're going, not even neighbors you trust. The fewer people who know, the better." She hesitated, then added, "I probably shouldn't say this officially, but Blackwood's not just some small-time breeder with anger issues. Our department has been trying to build a case linking him to organized dogfighting rings for years. The animals he breeds often end up in those rings, especially the ones deemed not valuable enough for show or breeding." The thought of Luna or her puppies in a fighting ring made Rachel physically ill. "All the more reason for us to get going," she said. Officer Jensen handed Michael her card. "My personal cell is on the back. Call any time, day or night, if you feel threatened or see anything suspicious." After the officer left, they moved with renewed urgency. Michael carried the container with Luna and her puppies to the garage while Rachel guided Ethan to the car. Just as they were about to close the garage door and drive away, Ethan suddenly froze, his eyes wide. "Someone's watching us," he whispered. Michael's head snapped up, scanning the garage and the sliver of yard visible through the partially open door. "Where?" Instead of answering, Ethan rushed to Luna's side, placing his hands on her head again in that now familiar gesture of communication. After a moment, he looked up at his parents, his face pale. "Luna says it's the man with the star. He's behind Mrs. Wilson's bush across the street. He has something in his pocket that Luna doesn't like. Something that hurts." Michael didn't question his son's warning. He slammed the garage door shut, then hurried to the small side window that overlooked their neighbor's yard. At first, he saw nothing unusual, just Mrs. Wilson's overgrown azalea bushes swaying slightly in the morning breeze. Then a glint of metal caught his eye, and his blood ran cold. Someone was indeed crouched behind those bushes, and the metallic glint could only be one thing: a gun. "Call Officer Jensen," he said to Rachel, his voice low and urgent. "Tell her someone's watching the house, armed." As Rachel made the call, Michael pulled Ethan away from the window. "We need a new plan. We can't leave through the garage if someone's watching." Ethan tugged at his father's sleeve. "Luna says there's another way. Through the woods behind our house. She can smell water and trees that way." Michael considered this. Their backyard did indeed back up to a small wooded area that eventually led to a community park. If they could get through those woods unnoticed, they could potentially reach a different street and avoid whoever was watching their home. "It's worth a try," he decided, "but we'll need to move Luna and the puppies very carefully. The container is too bulky for the woods." Rachel, having finished her call to Officer Jensen, joined the discussion. "We could use the pet carrier for Luna and put the puppies in the picnic basket with blankets. It would be easier to carry through rough terrain." "Jensen says to stay put. Police are on the way," she added, "but they'll be coming with sirens on purpose, trying to scare off whoever's watching. We'll have a few minutes of chaos to slip out the back." They worked quickly, transferring the puppies to the padded picnic basket and coaxing Luna into the large pet carrier they normally used for their elderly cat, who had passed away the previous year. Ethan stayed by Luna's side throughout the process, murmuring reassurances that kept the mother dog calm despite the separation from her newborns. As predicted, police sirens soon pierced the morning quiet, growing louder as they approached the house. Through the side window, Michael watched their observer's reaction. A moment of stillness, then quick movement as the figure ducked away from the bushes and retreated down the street, keeping low and using parked cars as cover. "Now's our chance," Michael said, picking up the pet carrier with Luna inside. Rachel grabbed the picnic basket with the puppies, and Ethan shouldered his small backpack filled with dog food and water bottles. They slipped out the back door and across their yard, moving quickly but cautiously. The wooden fence that marked the boundary between their property and the wooded area had a gate they rarely used, its hinges protesting with a squeak that seemed impossibly loud in the tense silence. Once through the gate, they were enveloped by the sheltering green of the small forest. Dew-damp leaves brushed against their legs as they picked their way carefully through the underbrush, mindful of the precious cargo they carried. Luna remained surprisingly quiet in her carrier, as if she understood the need for stealth. The puppies, too, seemed to sense the gravity of the situation, their usual squeaking subdued to occasional soft whimpers that Rachel quieted with gentle rocking of the basket. Ethan led the way with unexpected confidence, choosing paths through the woods that even Michael, who occasionally jogged these trails, hadn't noticed before. "Luna is telling me which way to go," the boy explained when Rachel questioned his certainty. "She can smell the car road on the other side." After what felt like hours, but was likely only 20 minutes, they emerged from the woods onto Patterson Avenue, several blocks from their home and out of sight of any potential watchers. "I'll call an Uber," Michael decided, pulling out his phone. "We can't risk going back for our car." The Uber driver, a middle-aged woman named Diane, raised no eyebrows at their unusual party, a family with a dog carrier and picnic basket at 7 a.m. on a Saturday. "Going camping?" she asked cheerfully as they settled into her minivan. "Something like that," Michael replied with a forced smile, "just heading to the bus station." This was part of their hastily constructed plan. Take an Uber to the bus station, then call another Uber from there to take them to the long-term parking lot, where they had left their second car, a small sedan they rarely used. It would be harder to track them this way, with multiple changes of transportation. At the bus station, they waited 30 minutes before calling their second Uber, using the time to check on Luna and her puppies and give them water. Ethan remained by Luna's side, occasionally reporting her thoughts and feelings to his parents. "She's worried about her smallest puppy," he said at one point, peering into the picnic basket. "Spark is too quiet." Indeed, while the other 6 puppies wriggled and squeaked whenever the basket was opened, the runt remained still, its breathing shallow. "He needs his mom," Ethan insisted. "He's too cold without her." Glancing around to ensure no one was watching too closely, Rachel helped Ethan carefully place the tiny puppy inside Luna's carrier. The mother dog immediately began licking the runt, stimulating its circulation with gentle strokes of her warm tongue. By the time their second Uber arrived, Spark was noticeably more active, nuzzling against his mother's side with renewed strength. Their second Uber driver was less chatty than Diane, dropping them at the long-term parking lot without much conversation. Michael located their old sedan quickly, and within minutes, they were on the road heading north toward the lake house. Luna's carrier secured with a seatbelt in the back seat beside Ethan, the picnic basket with the remaining puppies on the floor at his feet. As the city gave way to suburbs and then to countryside, some of the tension began to ease from their shoulders. They stopped once at a small gas station, where Michael purchased additional supplies, while Rachel and Ethan stayed in the car with Luna. "Luna says the man with the star is far away now," Ethan reported as they continued their journey. "She can't smell him anymore." Whether this was true canine perception, or simply the child's way of processing their escape from danger, the words brought comfort to Michael and Rachel. The lake house came into view shortly after noon, a modest cabin perched on a wooded hillside, overlooking the clear blue waters of Lake Mitchell. Rachel's sister used it primarily in summer and had given them a key for emergencies or off-season visits. This certainly qualified as an emergency. Michael carried Luna's carrier inside while Rachel brought the puppies. Ethan ran ahead, opening doors and checking rooms with the energy only a 4-year-old could maintain after such a stressful morning. "All clear," he called from the main bedroom. "Luna can have her babies in here." They set up a comfortable space for Luna and her puppies in the corner of the master bedroom, using blankets from the linen closet to create a soft nest. When they finally opened the carrier and the picnic basket, releasing mother and babies into their new temporary home, the relief was palpable. Luna inspected the space thoroughly, sniffing every corner before settling down to nurse her puppies. Spark, who had spent the journey with his mother, seemed stronger now, fighting for his place at Luna's side with more vigor than before. "She likes it here," Ethan announced, sitting cross-legged beside the dog bed. "She says it smells clean and safe." Rachel smiled, watching her son with the German Shepherd. In the chaos and fear of the past 24 hours, she hadn't had time to fully process the miracle they were witnessing, this inexplicable bond between child and animal that transcended normal understanding. As evening approached, Michael secured the cabin, checking locks and closing blinds with a thoroughness born of the day's events. Raj called to confirm that he had driven by their house several times, and noticed both police presence and suspicious vehicles he didn't recognize from the neighborhood. "You were right to leave," he told Michael. "There's definitely something going on. The squad car is still at the end of your street, but I saw a black SUV circling the block twice. When the police approached it, it took off." After a simple dinner of canned soup and sandwiches, they settled in for the night. Ethan refused to sleep in the guest room, insisting on staying close to Luna and her puppies. Rachel and Michael were too exhausted to argue, so they set up a sleeping bag for him on the floor beside Luna's bed. "He'll be fine," Michael assured Rachel as they prepared for bed. "Luna would never hurt him. If anything, she's more protective of him than we are." Rachel nodded, watching from the doorway as her son whispered goodnight to each puppy individually, saving a special kiss for Spark's tiny head. "I know. It's just, all of this is so beyond anything I could have imagined 2 days ago. Our son talks to dogs. We're hiding from criminals. A mother is giving birth in our bedroom. It's like we've stepped into some alternate reality." Michael wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "A reality where our son has an extraordinary gift.